taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel V. Hill.
Hello, welcome in, guys. I am Dante Gomez, filling in for Rachel V. Hill, joined by Richie Carney today, my boss. So hopefully,
no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure on me. So hopefully this goes well. Thank you for joining us. We are recapping the Broncos win in New York from Sunday, 10-9 victory. Broncos at this point, take a win as you can get them. Not really.
It can't all be pretty.
Yeah, exactly. You can't be picky when you're a beggar. So, good for the Broncos getting back to 500. We'll dive into Bo Nix first. Actually, how you doing, Richie? Let's start off with that.
I'm doing well, Dante. I'm doing well. How are you?
Right. Doing great. Thank you for hopping on. It was kind of a last second thing.
Yeah,
so I
of course.
Appreciate you making time for me.
Anytime.
But yeah, we'll dive into Bo Nix first. Bo Nix, not the best day. 12 completions total. Only one receiver had more than 3 receiving yards, and that was Cortland Sutton with 60. So I'll just give you the floor. Was it the rain? Was it miscues? Was it Sean Payton's play calling? Was it the receivers not getting open? What do you how do you share the blame pie in terms of the slow offense for the Broncos?
Like most things in life, I think it's a combination of things. I do think that the weather played a factor. I think there were definitely a handful of times where you could tell, or at least it looked like Bo was a little uncomfortable. I mean, he had that one pass down the right sideline where it almost looked like he just lost the grip of the ball and just kind of shovel past it forward. So I do think that the elements, and it was raining hard for the majority of the game. So I think that played a part in it. I still think he's finding his footing. I still think that, if you ask Sean Payton, he's like the most confident, cool cucumber you've ever seen. But he's in his 4th NFL start, and he was the 6th quarterback taken off the board. And there are reasons for that in terms of the evaluation and, the way the teams think that they're NFL ready. So I think that was part of it too. And I personally think that Sean Payton's system might not be the most rookie QB friendly. And I do think there might be some things that are still kind of square peg round hole in terms of the verbiage of the play calls. And I mean, we saw in previous weeks, prior to the Tampa game, where it felt like it was taking him 17, 18, 19, 20 seconds just to relay the play call and get up to the line of scrimmage with 3 seconds left and let's go. So I think that was a lot of it. I also just think that, in all honesty, they don't have a ton of talent, especially on offense at the skill position, at the skill positions. So, Cortland Sutton is Cortland Sutton. He doesn't look like the 10 touchdown receiver, that we saw a year ago and all of that. But part of that's on the quarterback. But I mean, Josh Reynolds and Devon Vele and,
both of whom actually didn't even get on the stat sheet.
Right.
Devon Vele, I think, was a healthy scratch, and Reynolds, 0 receptions.
Yeah. So we're saying those names as hey, these guys need to step up. The other 31 teams in the NFL are saying those names, and they're like, who? So it's I think that's part of it too. So it's kind of a cocktail of potential landmines, but they scored one more point than the other team, literally, and that's all that they had to do.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes, again, like I said earlier, beggars can't be choosers, so you take them as you can get them. We are joined by James Palmer now, actually, as well, so we'll do a little 3-way conversation here, unless you have to run, but up to you. If you want to stick around, have some questions for James as well. James, thanks for joining us.
Well, what's going on, guys? You got me? You hear me? Sorry, I'm late. Is this okay? Oh, now you can. Oh, yeah, you can put it.
All right, sorry. One more time, James.
Okay, ready? Hold on. Take 2. Hey guys, how's it going?
Seems like we might have some technical difficulties. I'm not able to hear you. I believe that's probably on our end. But hopefully we'll try to get that figured out here. In the meantime, I'm going to continue with Richie here. So you did mention Bo's confidence, and Sean Payton, there was a big hubbub in the post-game press conference about that. Do you think it is a confident Bo Nix, or do you think it's like a fake it till you make it situation until we do get to week 8, maybe even the end of the season before we do see a confident Bo Nix?
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of both. I think Bo Nix is a confident man. I think he's a confident player. He's had a lot of success in different situations in college. And so I do think he's confident in his own abilities. I think Sean Payton is confident in him, but we're all faking it till we make it a little bit, right? So there's a difference between being confident in your ability to do it and then successful execution of whatever it is you're trying to do. And I think that's where there's still a little bit of a disconnect. I think he's fully confident that he can do it and he can learn it and all of that stuff, but it doesn't mean that it all plays out properly in the meantime. You know what I'm saying? So it's still got to come down to an execution as well. And then as far as Sean Payton goes, I think that, I mean, it's no secret, right? Sean Payton is one of the most confident coaches in the NFL. I think that he is sometimes unearnedly so, and so I think he's confident even when he shouldn't be. And I think that there's positives and negatives to that. So when you have a head coach that is able to feel that way and operate that way, it's great when it manifests and when it comes together. But when it doesn't, I think you get a pretty strong disconnect, and that can be a disconnect in the locker room. It can be a disconnect between the fan base and the team, because your lips are saying, you're writing checks with your mouth that you can't quite cash. And I think we've experienced a little bit of that with Sean Payton when he came in the first year and said that, with Nathaniel, the only reason this team wasn't a playoff team is because Nathaniel Hackett was the worst coach in NFL history. And, it had nothing to do with Russell Wilson. And then all of a sudden we get through a season of Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, and it's like, oh no, it really was Russell Wilson. And so we kick him out of town. And so I think that you have a confident head coach and a confident quarterback. And it's just now a matter of not just believing in it, but actually materializing it and making it happen on the field.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree that both have been set up to succeed. And I think it's just a timing thing, where not timing in terms of on the field, but it just takes time to build a good, solid relationship, chemistry with your receivers, chemistry with your head coach, play calling, understanding each other through and through. So could not agree more with that. And let's try it one more time. Let's see if we can bring in James Palmer now.
Cross your fingers.
There we go. I got you.
Cross your fingers.
I got you.
Okay.
Shout out to Trey behind the scenes here for getting that going on the fly here.
I'm sorry for my tardiness. I had to do a thing. I'm like a Bleacher Report insider now, apparently, or something. Yeah, I don't like that term. But we were talking Davante Adams trade talk. And so I had to jump on for that. I apologize. Let's chat, guys. How's it going?
All right. Going great, James. Richie actually just stepped out. He's, big boss over here. So he's got bigger and better things
to do. Look at all the hats he wears. In the open, doesn't he have like a cowboy hat on something in the way the open rolls?
Yes, in the open in credits. He does have that cowboy hat. So
there's a lot of hats, that guy.
Shout out to Richie for joining. We were just talking about Bo Nix and the Broncos over the weekend. So wanted to get your take on, we just kind of did the confidence and why there was some miscues there. So we'll jump into the first half versus the second half. Did you see any difference there where it kind of came out in that third quarter? Seemed like they got stuff rolling a little bit on that first drive. What do you assign responsibility to why that was the difference between the first and the second half?
Well, I couldn't grip the ball in the first half. I mean, that was pretty evident. The weather was definitely impacting, I'd say, both quarterbacks, and you could say it was probably impacting Bo Nix more than it was Aaron Rodgers, in all honesty. Rodgers has gripped the ball in some of the most difficult conditions we've seen this league actually have games in during his time in Green Bay. So if it's impacting Aaron Rodgers, that should show you kind of what it was like gripping the football in that first half. Little like kind of side note, but outside the box, I remember Patrick Mahomes used to always tell me that gripping the football in the snow is like 1,000 times easier than the rain. If that's an example of kind of, he really likes throwing it in the snow, an example of kind of how hard it is actually in the rain to grip that ball. So I definitely think that was a part of it. I think what honestly, really, they stuck with the run, and then the run started hitting, and they started getting some chunk plays run-wise in the second half. What does that do? Obviously opens things up for you to make it a little bit easier in the pass game. So what I saw when you started seeing Javonte get 8, and then get 10, and then get, you know what I mean, and Jaleel do the same thing, you started to see the defense have to play a little bit differently because of the conditions, and because if you're running the football well in those type of conditions, it's just, you're hard to stop, and that opened it up a little bit. I think in the second half, that post route to Cortland Sutton's the best throw he's made this season, best throw he's made probably as an NFL player. And so, yeah, he definitely got better. What the thing I would think of that comes to mind most about this game is, as bad as that first half went, and let's just be honest, -7 passing yards for a half.
Yeah, it's not golf either.
Yeah, it's not golf.
Yeah, -7 in golf, great. And
it's like,
passing yards in the first half, not so great.
Not so great. It's like hard to do. Like I'm no professional football player, but if you put me out there, I think I'd get more than 7. I could get 0. I could literally just throw it out of bounds every down and beat -7.
Yeah,
so that's actually kind of hard to do. What I was impressed with is that it didn't carry over into the second half. It doesn't seem like his confidence gets rattled even when there's poor play by him or around him, and they were able to try to keep plugging away. Ugly win, but wins matter. He's still not playing outstanding. There's really one rookie that is kind of similar to what we saw last year, but it's a growth process. It is, and he's still not taking sacks. He's still really not turning the football over. And that's, in those type of conditions, maybe all you can ask for.
Yeah, no, I mean, completely agree. And I couldn't agree more on the growth process. I actually saw the graphic of I think it was 2018, the Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen draft class. And it's one of those where, hey, if you ask people to assess that draft class 2-3 years ago, you're like, oh, bust, Lamar Jackson MVP. And, Josh Allen's had some good years too. But if you reevaluate that today, that's, Baker Mayfield's going to the playoffs. Sam Darnold's 4-0 right now. Josh Allen's still, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Same with Lamar Jackson, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So, I'm a big believer in it takes time. You got to be patient. You got to let them figure it out. So I think Broncos country could take a little note from that of, hey, sometimes it just takes time. Not everyone's going to come out the gate.
For sure. I mean, big time. Playing your rookie year is hard. I mean, it's really hard. And that's why still, even with the success we've had of some of these players, I mentioned, kind of last year there was one, CJ Stroud was playing out of his mind, one of the best rookie seasons we've seen. This is these first 4 games, the best rookie start we've seen in the history of the NFL. No lie, in terms of completion percentage. To complete 82% of your passes like Jaden Daniels is doing right now, there hasn't been a 4-game stretch like that for a quarterback, not a rookie, not to start a season, ever. No quarterback has ever done that in a 4-game stretch. So it is really, really difficult. The vast majority of first-round picks, honestly, don't end up becoming the top players in this league. It just happens because there's a lot picked. It doesn't pan out for everybody. Taking a minute and seeing how it grows, I just don't think Bo Nix is going backwards, if that's a good way to put it. He hasn't had a whole lot of regression or those games where you lose your confidence. Confidence is massive in this league, and I don't think he's having those moments. We saw that happen to Bryce Young. The loss of confidence is a huge part of what's gone wrong for Bryce Young. I don't think Bo's had those, and I think that's important.
No, absolutely. And you did mention that running game. They were able to stick within that second half. There was, rumblings that Javonte Williams maybe could be losing his starting spot as, early as last week. People
not from JP. No.
Hey, maybe not from James Palmer. James Palmer was on the right side of history, I guess. But definitely was a hot button topic, especially, around, spot or talk show radios, that kind of stuff. So made for good content that way. At this point, do we assume Javonte has solidified his spot after his performance, or is that, still on a short leash? We did see Tyler Bidet go down, so the guy that would potentially step in might not even be there health-wise to step in. So where do you assess the running back room for the Broncos?
Yeah, I'll say this because I think Stokely and Mike asked me about this, Zach and Phil asked me about this, and I was just like, I think the running back room is built because I think they even mentioned, like, does he become inactive? And I'm like, well, relax, guys. They're going to ride the hot hand in that backfield. That's the way they're built. Nobody's getting paid an absorbent amount of money. Javonte is essentially the number one, the starting back. It's really most importantly, honestly, who plays for you in the second half and the fourth quarter. That's bigger usually at the running back spot than, say, who gets the start. I wouldn't say he's on any sort of leash. I mean, I heard too many good things about Javonte from people on that coaching staff for me to give up after 3 games. Was it good? No, it wasn't. Was the run game good? No, it wasn't. But from what I had heard is Javonte physically just night and day from a year ago, trying to come back from the knee injury compared to what he was like in camp. Just like the explosiveness, they saw his legs being back. He just had an outstanding camp. And in 3 games, I just wasn't going to really give up on it. But I do think they're going to continue just to ride whoever's hot in that backfield. And I think that's the way they're going to be built. Is that going to be Javonte for a certain game? Is that going to be Jaleel? Could it be Bidet? That's so weird to say, by the way.
I'm with you. I want to say Beatty every single time I see it.
I do too. So, I mean, Javonte, this was a great step for him in still, I think, a recovery from a massive knee injury. I mean, like the word that was used in the building was catastrophic. Like, that was the description of his knee injury. So I think we all need to remember that it does take a minute to come back. It does take a minute to trust that knee, that, you know, those things. And this is the type of game that maybe that starts to snowball for him a little bit. I'm not giving up on Javonte by any stretch.
Yeah, I was a person. I went through a pretty catastrophic. I tore my Achilles, so even it was about a year ago. So I was asking, my buddies were asking me to play in a rec league basketball league, and I was like, I don't think I'm ready. So I don't get how Javonte's out there on an NFL field, you know, going up against 250-pound men that are trying to tackle him. So yeah, I completely understand where you know, it takes time to get back to 100%. All right, well, let's shift over to the defense here. They've been rolling. Alex Singleton missed and didn't really matter. They kept on rolling and held these Jets to 9 points, 3 field goals. Is it Vance Joseph? Is it, you know, Sean Payton mentioned, you know, in training camp, there's something dangerous about young and hungry. They certainly seem to be young and hungry.
I think it's Vance Joseph. I do. I think Vance Joseph's doing the best job on this coaching staff right now. He has 1 first-round pick on that defense in Patrick Surtain, and that's it. They are hungry, like you said. Their motor never stops going. There's a play that stands out to me from Malcolm Roach that kind of personifies the way that defensive line group has played. They have been outstanding. They've been in the backfield repeatedly. Zach Allen is off to a monster start. I mean, I've talked to some people around the league. They're like, the dude is playing his tail off and is just living in the backfield. But Malcolm Roach made a play on a screen in the third quarter where obviously everybody bites on the screen. Offensive line kind of did it. He figures it out, detects it, turns around, dives with like one hand and trips up the screen from behind. And I'm like, that effort, it's from the first quarter to the fourth quarter on this defense. And they tackle extremely well in space. They really do. Jaquan Macmillan, you know, make sure you say it the right way. We're really about pronunciations on this Broncos team. I don't think he missed an open field tackle in that game on Sunday. He's been fantastic. And when you have a corner as good as him, and I mean, I think he's becoming one of the best inside corners in football, and a corner that is the best corner in football in Patrick Surtain, your third corner is going to get a lot of attention, and that's Riley Moss, and he's lived up to it. Like, I think he keeps growing each game in this starting role. You're going to get a ton of targets in that role. You're going to get a ton of attention, and if you can make some plays, you'll also give up some plays. But if you can make some plays, it's a good thing. And what has he done? He's been a part of a fumble recovery and forced fumble multiple weeks now. So as a group, they really have been outstanding. They blitz a ton. I was terrified going against Aaron Rodgers because he just dissects blitzes like crazy. And they were blitzing at about 50% of the clip. And so that was number 1 in the NFL. Vance Joseph still found a way to bring pressure in a variety of ways to confuse one of the greatest minds to ever play the quarterback position in this league. Extremely impressive. And then let's just say it real quick, or we can talk about it for the rest of the show. Patrick Surtain, I got it in front of me. Okay. Last week, 2 catches, 22 yards as the nearest defender on Garrett Wilson. 3 catches for 29 yards as the nearest defender on DK Metcalf. 1 catch, 16 yards, nearest defender on George Pickens. 1 catch, 8 yards as the nearest defender on Mike Evans. He's playing outstanding, and they're allowing him to go out and do that and make plays, and the rest of the group is doing it around him as well. This group it's one of the best defenses in football, and I don't know if anybody outside of Denver can name a member of the defense outside of Patrick Surtain. I don't know if like a casual fan can, and that's a testament to Vance Joseph and all of these guys and the effort they're putting in. The D-line's been completely different than it was a year ago.
Yeah, geez, you nailed it.
I said a lot there. I'm sorry.
You did, but you nailed it all.
I'm excited about this defense.
Hey, there's reason to be excited. I had in my notes here, 19 guys recorded at least 2 tackles in that game. So just group effort, 5 sacks total. So just kind of getting it from everywhere. Pat Surtain's been what Pat Surtain was paid to do. And little betting tip for you guys out there. Take the under on receiving yards for the guys that he's shadowing that week. Yeah, that's been a pretty good money maker for me though. Well, let's wrap it up here. We Or actually, I had one more question.
Go ahead.
Going back to the offense, or a couple more questions in general, but one more question before we get to my final one. What is Sean Payton's ideal offense? Like if he had to, in dreamland here, what is he doing? Is he passing it 20, 25 times? Is he passing it 30, 40 times? Does he want to run the ball, X amount of times? Let's say, the restrictions are off. What would he be wanting to do in these games?
Well, even with a rookie quarterback, he wants to throw the ball. But for that to be successful, you still got to run it to a decent clip. And I think that is important. But Sean wants to throw the ball, and that's not taking unnecessary risks with the ball. That's being smart. Bo's short accuracy is like one of the biggest traits that Sean likes. I know the comp to Drew Brees is consistently brought up all the time, but it's being methodical with how you throw the football, and it's wearing teams out. And there's a part of that maybe just a lot of people at home don't know. And a good way to put it is like, I've talked to enough defensive coordinators and defensive backs and defenders. When the ball keeps coming out as quickly as Sean wants the ball to come out with his quarterback, you start to get antsy and frustrated as a defensive player and a defensive coordinator. So what do you usually end up doing? You usually end up taking unnecessary risks, right? You try to jump a route. You try to do something differently. And then that's usually when Sean's offenses make teams pay. And the quarterback has to make them pay, but Sean usually does a really, really good job of making defenses pay when you do that. So that's kind of like where it's at. It's not like a shot offense by any stretch. I think he'd like to throw the ball. I think we've seen that even when they've tried to establish the run. Bo's still throwing the football quite a bit. I mean, Jared Goff threw it 18 times last night, and he completed 18 of them. But they want to run the football, right? That's what Detroit wants to do, and they can still be explosive while running the football. I think throwing 18 times. I'm not sure if Bo Nix throws that few of passes this season. What did he throw in the last game, by the way? Because it was like,
let me see if I get it for you here.
Obviously, it was wild conditions, and that always plays a part.
I want to say he was 12 for like 25. 12 for 25. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think even in those conditions, he threw it 25 times. I don't think we see Bo Nix throw the ball less than 20 times in a game this season.
Yeah, I mean, that one game, what do you have, 44 in the first or second game of the year? Yeah. So he doubled up on Jared Goff already in one game there. And then, what we're going to finish up here with, we're going to power rank the 2-2 AFC teams. So that would be at 6 teams: Jets, Colts, Ravens, Chargers, Raiders, Broncos. And so the Broncos are kind of in the thick of that right there. Their next 2 opponents will be against 2 of those teams in the Raiders and the Chargers. Mm-hmm. So how would you rank those teams 1 to 6 there?
Oh boy, can you say them
again? If you need the list again, let me know.
Just say, let's just do this. Go through the 6, and we'll just say if they're better or
better. Okay, I like that. Jets.
I think by the end of the year, I think the Jets will be better.
Okay, Colts.
I think they're better than the Colts.
Do you think the Broncos are better than the Colts?
Yes, I think the Broncos are better than the Colts.
Ravens.
I think the Ravens are better than the Broncos.
Okay.
It's Chargers. A 2-time MVP at quarterback.
No, they're a weird 2-2 where it's like really, they're 2-2. But you know what? The wins aren't created equally in the NFL. Yeah. So, and then Chargers, Raiders.
I think they're right here with the Chargers. I really think the Chargers have turned a corner, but defensively and the injuries that the Chargers are going through, just tough. I think they're better than the Raiders for sure.
Okay.
I definitely think that's the case. And I think some people might be departing the Raiders.
Yeah, you would know better than anyone. Sounds like you were just discussing.
Yeah, we were talking about it. Yeah.
All right. So out of those 6, you had them better than the Colts and Raiders, correct?
Better than the Colts and Raiders.
Okay. And even with the Chargers.
And even with the Chargers, I do. But also think about this. And we started this conversation before I go about the development of Bo Nix. The teams you just mentioned, Justin Herbert's a top 10 quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is going to the Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Famer. Lamar Jackson is a 2-time MVP. How are you going to say your team is better than those quarterbacks that command such presence in this league? And so it's when your quarterback is growing like that, I think it's hard. Now, if you just said to me, which one of those teams has the best defense? The Broncos have the best defense out of all of those teams. And it's not even I don't think it's even close. I think the Ravens are not a great defense. I really do not think that's the case. We know the Colts are not a very good defense. We know the Jets have the potential to be a good defense, but have had moments where they're not. I think they're better than the Raiders defense, and I think they're better than the Chargers defense. Like, so are they going to win some games strangely? Maybe. Am I wrong to say that like some of those teams are still better? Yeah, because quarterbacks usually win games in the NFL. That's usually what ends up happening.
All right, James. I like the list. I think based on what.
Yeah, where are you at on the list? Don't just put me out to dry. Like, where are you at on this list?
I had the Ravens as the best out of those 6.
Okay.
The Jets following them, and then I had the Broncos next. I think they're better than Colts, Chargers, Raiders. So pretty similar to your list.
Yeah.
I just think the injuries on the Chargers are too much at this point, and they're a tough-nosed team. But you're missing 2 of your best offensive linemen. You're missing both tackles. At least last week you were. I don't know how long.
No, it's going to last.
Continue. Yeah. So I just think they're just too injury riddled this team at this point, and they'll probably win some games just on toughness. Jim Harbaugh's, ultimate football guy, and he'll get those guys ready to play. But I just think the Broncos have more substance to them than those other teams.
I agree with that for right now. But then if there's a couple of injuries on Denver, like it's depending on who it is, you know what I mean? So, I mean, I just love watching this defense play, man. I really, really do. I think Vance is doing a great job. I think the defense is phenomenal. Jonathan Franklin Myers has been great. I don't think anybody in that group's even close to them defensively.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think the Jets and Ravens could be close, but they haven't shown it at least to start the season. And, who knows? The Ravens
usually pass rush from outside pass rush from either of those teams, honestly. That's an issue. Reddick just doesn't want to show up. The Ravens quietly, if you pay attention, there's not really an outside pass rush there. And that hurts you. Like we're getting the weeds here, and I know you want to go, but I'm staying.
No. Hey, we'll stay as long as you want to go.
If you don't have a pass rush from your edge rushers and you want to sit in zone, that's just a bad recipe. It's just tough to play football that way, and that's what the Ravens are doing right now. So it's tough. I think the Broncos are playing outstanding, and I don't see that changing unless injuries change that in some capacity. I don't see the Broncos defense falling off. I don't.
Yeah, I don't need. I mean, from the second half of last year, they have been lights out. They've been turning the ball over. At least last year, we haven't seen that as much this year. We saw it in that Tampa game with that forced fumble. So, if they can get some turnover luck going here too, they're going to be even more dangerous than they already have been. So, I'm really excited to watch. That defense go. It's one of those where usually, fans are excited when the offense goes out there. It's like, hey, we can score some points, but for the Broncos, it's almost inverse where you're excited when the defense is out there because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if they're going to go 3 and out. They're going to fly around. They're going to, hit some guys. Pat Surtain's not even going to get thrown at because quarterbacks don't want to mess with that. So it's exciting to see them out there. Well, that will do it for the show, though, James. I appreciate you hopping on. It was nice to talk to you.
Yeah,
it was nice talking to you for.
So I got the dogs right here. So,
oh, nice.
Okay.
All right, we got a special guest, Hank. But
yeah,
it was nice talking to you longer than the 5 seconds. Usually, I'm the guy that calls you to hop on the drive. So,
why did you? I knew the voice was familiar. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, James, appreciate it. Everyone else, thank you for joining us, and have a great rest of your week. We'll be back tomorrow at noon. Thank you.
Easy, guys.